my disconnection from my family is driven not out of anger or rage or frustration, but my own peace. Hello. Today I want to talk about my life, I guess. Uh, Something not of general interest. In the last few videos, I've been trying to talk about things of general interest, and, well, I suppose I'll try something different. Um, and so I wanted to talk about specifically why my relationship with my parents ended, or what it means that it ended. Um, and so I guess there are two pieces to that. One is the personal aspect, and one is the more objective aspect to it. And so, of course, the objective aspect will be of general interest, and then the personal aspect will be like maybe to see how I actually feel about things. So I would say for the first 20 years of my life, it was hell. I was just suffering, and then at some point I realized that I wanted to change things, or I diagnosed the problem, which was that I had a connection to my parents, or rather that I was, under the weight of my parents, or something like that, and then I, and then it was as good as done, the relationship was over, and it was just a matter of like sorting things out. And now, my parents, they still message me. They don't really recognize that the relationship is over, but it is, and it's been over for some time. And I wanted to talk about maybe what it means that it's over. I mean, what really is it? What really goes on when a relationship ends? Because in your mind, the memories are still there. The knowledge of who the other person is still there. And I think, in a way, the relationship hasn't ended so much as nothing more is added to it. And, I don't, that's why I blocked my parents, is that I don't want to hear more, you know. They put a lot of weight on me, not just pressure to achieve, or be some good citizen, but they actually put a lot of weight on me, psychologically. And I can deal with what's already there. I can reorganize things. I can remove that pressure, so to speak, but I cannot, I don't want to live with more. And so the relationship isn't ended so much as it's just still, not ongoing, I guess. Not changing, so to speak. And I think that I'm changing. I'm changing in my own life, but and that relationship is changing, but it's not there. It's not changing over there. It's changing in the present with the people around me, not by them. The the things I understood from that relationship are changing in my own understanding, not so much from them, and so I'm continuing. I'm continuing to live, and yet they are sort of dead, And I've used those words before, that they're dead to me, or rather that I wish they were dead, because I was just very overwhelmed by the fact that, just by the fact that I still had to put up with them when I was 20 years old. you know? And, um, anyway, and I live in a different continent. I live in Argentina, and they still live in the US, and they continue to try and reach out to me, try and contact me, and every time I feel really like a barrier has been crossed, and they don't recognize that barrier. They don't see it. They don't see that I no longer have anything to do with them, and I feel that they aren't capable of seeing that they don't recognize me as an autonomous human being. They don't recognize me as somebody with my own will. They see me more as an extension of their own will, and when they hear something like that they're not in my life anymore, it doesn't register for them. It changes its meaning. Rather than hearing that, well, I've decided to go on with my life without them, they hear that I'm rebelling or something like that, that I'm angry or I'm acting out of frustration, when really the fact is that I am moving on in my life without them. And they cannot, and they cannot see anything but me as a child, I guess, or worse, they can't see me as anything but an object. And so how does an object have any feelings? Well, I guess if you're gonna go further on and how I'm just an extension of their own ego, you might say that to them, anger or frustration is more of a sign of of a system not working, right, rather than real feeling. They've lost the capacity to empathize, and so even if they thought that what was happening was I was rebelling, they really can't empathize with that at all, even if they were to see a feeling that wasn't there. What I really feel is I guess, out of, I think of respect also, as a respect for the people who care about me, because I know that my parents, they destroy the things that are precious to me, and if I care about somebody, that they are going to be hurt. They're going to be hurt through me. They're going to be attacked by them. I had a girlfriend who my mother would just attack. My mother called one of my girlfriends a whore, and did some really bad gestures. It's really awful. And I had another girlfriend who, my mother was like, why do you have any respect for him? She wanted that girlfriend to lose her respect for me. And I didn't understand what was happening. I thought it was the norm to, I don't know, bring everybody together. But I kept getting hurt. I guess I was stupid. I didn't really realize what was happening, and I just kept getting hurt without really seeing, or I was unwilling to see, or something along those lines. And anyway, I think one of the ways you escape your parents is not just a objective I, so to speak, not just you are conscious of everything and you're a god of all human experience or something like that, but rather you have a respect for the people who see you. You form new relationships, and in those relationships, the old ones change, and the way that all of my relationships have gone with friends and girlfriends and so on, everyone, is what needed. In order for me to have a respect for other people, I needed to separate myself from my parents, who were, narcissistic, disrespectful, and so on. And anyway, and that's the end of my video.